Welcome to Plastic Model Mojo, a podcast dedicated to scale modeling, as well as the news and events around the hobby. Let's join Mike and Kentucky Dave as they strive to be informative, entertaining, and help you keep your modeling mojo alive.
I think we're going to make it, Dave.
I think we are. We've survived Christmas.
We sure have. We're going to squeeze in one more episode here before the end of the year.
That's right.
Episode 106. Now, we've got a great conversation with our guest we'll get to a little later. But, folks, we got a little something different. We've all been really busy, just like you with the holidays. And we're going to give you a little Plastic Model Mojo light on this episode. Just our days here going into New Year's Eve are busy, and we're just gonna cut this down to the good stuff. How about that, Dave?
That sounds good to me.
And hopefully, I'll squeeze out an edit.
I know. I trust you.
Get this out before the end of the year.
You'll get there.
Well, man, we'll kind of expand on this one a little bit, but what's up in your model sphere, Dave?
Well, Christmas is behind us. We're staring New Year's in the face. My model sphere is doing great, although not necessarily my model bench. Obviously, with the holidays, not as much time at the bench as I would like. But on the upside, Christmas was fantastic. Santa was good to me, and I got gift cards and money that I could and have been allocating toward hobby resources. We'll talk about that a little bit later. While I haven't been able to model at the bench, I've been able to get some modeling reading done. Got to do a lot of interacting with members of the dojo and listeners out there. Just generally exchanging holiday greetings and well wishes. And it makes me realize I've got a whole lot to be thankful for, man. It was a great holiday, and I'm looking forward to the new year. How about you?
Well, I can second all that. And I don't know. I've not mentioned it except to some of our more close friends out there in the model sphere, but I've been struggling with what's arguably one of our most important modeling tools. I kind of broke one of them.
Yes, I know, man. You got to stop doing that.
I think our most important modeling tools are our hands and our eyes. Now, I didn't break my hand, but I got a nasty conjunctivitis in one of my eyes about 2 weeks ago. And because I was not a good steward of my contact lens routine, once I had the infection, I ended up with a corneal ulcer. And just today now, it's been over 2 weeks, I'm at full correction. I've got a contact lens back in the eye that was compromised by the infection. So I've not been able to do much at the bench.
We got to stop calling you one eye.
Yes, I'm back to 2.
Good.
Probably 4, but my other 2 are hidden.
Well, I assume that your vision is back to 100%.
Oh yeah, I'm fine now. So I'll be more careful next time.
Yeah. Well, you've got 2 weeks of modeling mojo built up behind you. I imagine you're bursting to get to the bench.
Well, I am, but I guess what? I've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Yeah.
And that's going to be about it. And got New Year's Eve in there. And I got some other things going on tomorrow night. So I'm not going to get a whole lot of bench time. So hopefully after New Year's, can get back into a routine. And
you'll start 2024 strong. How about that?
Sounds good to me. That's about the best I can do.
All right. It's the last episode of the year. I'm sure that you've got a modeling fluid to celebrate. What do we have?
I've got Gumball Head from 3 Floyds.
Oh, nice choice. Yep. I've been drinking some Gumball Head on the regular lately, and I got to tell you, I think it improves my modeling. So
it was part of the rotation when I got the stuff for the lunch and gift exchange we had with the in-laws. That side of the family, they came to our house this year, and nobody liked it.
Oh, isn't that disappointing?
Yeah, no. Now I've got the other.
You planned
I
that.
got the other
didn't you?
11 to drink.
Oh, that sounds like the kind of problems that I would like to have. Well, we know, Gumball Head. We know you're going to have a good experience.
Well, what about you, my friend?
Well, thanks to the model wife, in my stocking was a can of Sapporo premium beer. Now, obviously, if you've ever been to a Japanese hibachi restaurant, this has been one of the beers that's always on offer. And my lovely model wife, who likes to supply me with modeling fluid for the episodes, got this. Pretty good. Pretty good. In Japan, I suspect this is a mass market beer, but it certainly tastes a step up from the American mass market beers. I'll give you a report at the end of the episode, but so far I'm liking it.
Normally we'd stick the listener mail in here, but due to the holidays, the mailbag was a little light, and most of the listener mail over the last couple of weeks has been in relationship to episode 105 and Chris Collins, our model building history teacher. So that episode was pretty popular. I think that resonated with a lot of people, but
I think it did.
We will pick back up the listener mail in the new year. Until then, if you'd like to write into the show, please do so at plasticmodelmojo@gmail.com. I'll typically handle the email, and if you'd rather do it through Facebook Messenger, you can DM us that way, and unless it's subject specific and he needs my help. Dave, you got those, right?
Yep. I'll call you in for air support when I need it. Guys, I would like to take this moment and this last episode of the year to thank everybody who has heeded my repeated pleas, has joined IPMS USA or your national IPMS chapter, wherever you are, who's joined AMPS, who have joined their local chapters, modeling clubs, be they IPMS related, AMPS related, or unaffiliated. Guys, it's one of the best things you can do to improve your modeling and your modeling mojo. And a lot of people have done it over the last year, and I'd like to thank you for doing it. In addition, all of the people who are out there who've joined the dojo and who've participated, I'm telling you, the camaraderie and the family that has built up around the podcast and around the dojo has been one of the blessings of the last 4 years for both Mike and I. And we'd like to thank you for showing us your work and for interacting with us. We'd like to thank you for contributing by asking interesting questions, showing us interesting techniques, showing us great in-progress builds, and great completed models. So all in all, 2023 has been fantastic, and you all are all a big reason why.
Well, I can certainly second that, and we've had numbers of folks over this year and years prior talk about coming into either the IPMS or joining their local club or attending their first show, be it the Nationals or something a lot smaller, a lot closer to home. That's all great too. We should thank folks who've gotten out to and participated at their local shows.
Yes.
Well, my part of this is thanking all those folks who've gone on and digested some of the content, either from the other podcasts who we mutually support or the other content creators recommend on this podcast just about, well, absolutely every episode. So we appreciate that, and our contributor friends appreciate that, and we look forward to more of that in 2024.
Yes, I've noticed that the holidays seem to have spurred an increase in content generation. So there's a lot of great blog posts and YouTube videos out there. Go consume that content. That is these guys are doing great work out there, and it's well worth giving a little bit of your time to see what they're offering.
We should also thank our sponsor by running his ad.
Yes, we should.
Plastic Model Mojo is now brought to you by Model Paint Solutions, your source for Harder Steenbeck airbrushes, David Union power tools, and laboratory-grade mixing, measuring, and storage tools for use with all your model paints, be they acrylic, enamels, or lacquers. Check them out at www.modelpaintsolutions.com. Dave, we've made a lot of friends on this journey so far in the 4 years we've been doing this, and they are not limited to right here in the USA either.
Yep. This is one of my favorite people we have met in the last year.
We met this person at Heritage Con back in March of this year. And then, you actually met him before that.
I met him at Roscoe Turner.
Roscoe Turner. And then he approached us again at Heritage Con. They're on the museum floor and got that great picture we used. Mr. Paul Gloster, heck of a modeler, heck of a person.
Heck of a world traveler.
Heck of a world traveler. I don't know if that'll continue as like it did in 2023 and 2024, but we got to hand it to him and look forward to meeting him again in Madison. And this is what he had to say about 2023, Dave. Well, Dave, 2023 was sure great for Plastic Model Mojo and especially for our travels and this community that's sprung up around the show. And we've met all kinds of new people. And tonight from, daytime for him from the land down under, we've got one of our newest and bestest friends we've made along the way.
Yeah.
An extraordinary modeler, Mr. Paul Gloster. Paul, how are you doing tonight or today?
I'm very good. Thank you, Mike and Dave. Excellent, in fact.
We are talking through the wormhole of international date lines.
Yes, I was going to say, it's noon on the 28th there. Could you do me a quick favor and look in the paper and find out who wins the U of L USC game? I've still got time to get hold of my bookie.
I'm calling you from the future, and I can tell you it's all okay.
Okay.
Well, Paul, we met you for the first time at Heritage Con up in Canada. And
that's right.
That's where the picture came from. We used as the teaser graphic for this episode, but that was the first time we ever met. And then we caught up with you again at the National Convention this year in San Marcos, Texas. And look, it's been a real pleasure getting to know you and watching all your other modeling travels around the world. And we thought we'd have you on for this episode, kind of our year-end wrap-up, and see what it's like to be a jet-setting scale modeler.
So just to set the levels, in the last year, you've been to Heritage Con, the Nationals, what's the big show in Australia?
It's the Australian Model Expo.
Australian Model Expo in Melbourne. Then you've also been to SMC and Scale Model World, all in 1 year.
Yeah, I got Roscoe Turner in there. I got the San Diego, that was the easiest one, and QMHE, which is the Queensland one. They were the easiest ones because they were the local comps. But yes, all of those.
All in a year, basically. I want to be you when I grow up. That's a heck of a collection. Somebody would be lucky to attend those shows in their lifetime, but you managed to attend them all in the space of a year. How did that work out? How you've obviously got a job that allows you to travel. How did that work out?
Yeah, well, Dave, I don't think it was all kind of engineered that way. There was a little bit of good timing, a little bit of good luck, and probably just a little bit of me saying, hey, don't miss this opportunity to go to this event. So I had to move to the US for work. So I ended up being based in San Diego through the middle of last year. And so that put me in the right spot in terms of being able to get to the shows. I immediately joined IPMS San Diego, so I got to know the guys there, and of course everyone was like, are you going to go to the Nats? Are you going to go to the Nats? So that kicked it off, and I went to the Nats in 2022 in Omaha, and that kind of opened my eyes to, I guess, the possibility of actually spending some of my time while I was overseas by myself away from the family, just having a look at some of the model shows that were around. So I had a look through the calendars. I had a look at the dates. I tried to engineer some work travel to line up. And then some weekends when I was just quiet, I just thought, you know what, I'll just go up to Indianapolis and go and see the Roscoe Turner competition because it's supposed to be excellent. And then I guess some of the tent pole ones I mapped out and planned for. I was home in May back in Australia, so the Model Expo lined up, QMHE lined up. I'd already committed to go to the Nats, so I went back for that, and I'd committed to go to Telford, and then SMC was a little bit of a bonus as well. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that I started at the year going, I'm going to go to all of these competitions. It's probably only about 2 or 3 that I thought I'd get to. It just happened fortuitously that I got to much more than I expected.
That is a heck of a year. Well, other than your observation that modeling is doing well across the world, what observations do you have about the different shows and compare and contrast? Just what, I won't ask you your favorite or your least favorite or whatever, but just give us some input regarding the different shows you went to. What were highlights of the different ones?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's hard to pick. I don't think I could pick a favorite even if you did ask, because the thing I would say is that they're all so different. I'd probably say that us as modelers were all very similar, but the events that we hold are all very different. Different emphasis. So some will be contest heavy, some will be display heavy. SMC was amazing. It really opened my eyes because of the amount of figures that were there. Figures, were kind of like one table in a lot of the other contests. To see half a room full of the highest quality figures that you could imagine. The sociability of the IPMS Nats, the quality of the special interest groups at Telford, they're all so different. But I guess the good thing is that as you go to these different events, you meet so many different people, and we are all so similar. We all have the same challenges. We all have the same stash challenges. We're all buying things that we don't need to buy, and then complaining about things. We are a very like-minded tribe, I think, from Europe to the UK to Australia to the US and probably all around the world. I think there's something that all of us modelers share in common.
Of each of the big shows you attended, pick out one thing that really stood out at that show. Let's start with SMC. You talked about the fact that it was the first show that you've been to where figures were such a large part of the show. Was it just the sheer number or the quality, or what was it about the figures that SMC that made them the standout item at that show?
Yeah, I think that because it's such a figure-heavy show from a contest perspective, everything around it is slightly different. So half of the trading hall was all devoted to figures, paints, brushes, scenic work, diorama building. And then the other half was probably more traditional, model related. Edward was on the other side, and a lot of the other model businesses were over there as well. So I think that's the thing that stood out. It wasn't just the competition, it was everything around it as well. I also noticed that it was a lot younger at SMC and definitely a lot more gender balanced in terms of the modelers. There were almost as many female modelers there as male modelers, and the quality, they were getting up there winning the awards. So it was a very level playing field. It was very open. And I think that also because it was just a 2-day competition, there were a lot of younger modelers there as well. So I think it was a good balanced show, despite the fact that it was a lot of figures. It actually brought a very different group of modelers into the event that I noticed. There was still naturally all the armor modelers and the aircraft modelers. I put 2 aircraft into the model to the aircraft section, but it was slightly different to some of the other shows that I've seen in my travels.
Okay, so now let's go to Telford next.
Mm-hmm,
You mentioned the SIGs, and I've never been, other than Heritage Con, I've never been to a model contest outside of the U.S., other than the Canadian Nationals back in the 90s. But again, so Telford, I know, is renowned for all their SIG tables, and it's, from the people that I've talked to who went, it's more display oriented than contest oriented. Is that what stood out for you, or what stood out at Telford for you?
Yeah, you're right, Dave. I think that the contest is there, but it's a much smaller part of the overall event. So what I love about Telford, it's great, is that you've got everybody sitting there on their special interest group tables with all of their models out in front of them. And, they're sitting behind and they've got cheese boards and they're having a glass of wine and a beer, and it's very, very social. The atmosphere is a buzz there. It's really got an energy, and even though it's 3 halls, it carries all the way through. There's a lot of really good businesses there as well in terms of the trader stands, and then you've got people like Airfix there where you can have a conversation with the designer of a kit that you've just built. That's a fantastic aspect of Telford as well. So it's a great contest. But I don't think the contest is the main emphasis of that event as such. It's definitely quite social, and it looks like it's kind of like everybody coming together to, catch up once a year around models rather than necessarily competing.
Now, what was there were 2 in Australia. What was the big one, the one in Melbourne?
Yeah, that's the Australian Model Expo, and then there's QMHE. So the Australian Model Expo is pretty sure it's the biggest model show in the Southern Hemisphere. I might be wrong, but I know it was for a while there. So it's kind of like the Nats for Australia. And it used to be very, very heavily Victorian and Melbourne based, but now people from all over Australia come. It's quite a great social event. So
I'm disappointed when you said Victorian. I thought everybody dressed up in clothes from the late 1890s and men with handlebar. Okay, you meant something different. Gotcha.
Yeah, the great state of Victoria, not state of mind of Victoria. The modelers, come in and it's probably got a real emphasis on the contest, and it's quite a balance. It's a 3-day event, so it's probably the most balanced of all of them between the contest, the displays, and the traders. You have all of those things happening all at once, and because it's a 2 or 3 day show, you have a lot of families coming through, you have a lot of kids coming through. It's very easy. You get like a display kind of feel about the Australia Model Expo. It's held over a long weekend. It's advertised and supported quite heavily locally. So it's probably, of all of them that I went to, it's a really nice balance, that one, and it always has been.
So to recap, you did not make it to Scale ACT?
No, because I was in Europe when Scale ACT happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you went to a different show.
Yeah.
Apparently there wasn't a hit that needed to be done over there at that point.
It's a great competition as well. And there's also the QMHE, which is the Queensland Model and Hobby Expo, which is kind of like one of the regionals in the IPMS USA, as is what Scale ACT is. They're the big state-based competitions that, again, more and more people are traveling for. It's I think that's a real kind of breakthrough, is that, when we all sat at home and modeling started coming to us from all the different technological sources such as podcasts and YouTube and magazines being online. I think we're all now, I'm certainly starting to go, well, I'm probably going to take myself out a little bit more to that modelling world. And I know that, particularly in the Australian contests, there's a lot of people starting to travel interstate for the contests now, probably a whole lot more than what there ever used to be. And that was part of what inspired me when I was in the US living there, was to say, I'm going to go up to Roscoe Turner. I'm going to go up to Indianapolis. I'll fit in 2 days at Dayton, Ohio at the US Air Force Museum afterwards, and I'll make a little trip of it. I'll make a little long weekend of it. I'll go up to Heritage Con. I'll go and see the museum up there, see the Lancaster, and then I'll go and see Niagara Falls. So I think that's a really good model of being able to kind of combine a couple of different things into the one hit, with modeling and a model show being part of it.
Well, you mentioned Roscoe Turner. When were you there again? 2022 or
2023.
2023.
Yeah.
Okay. But that was before Heritage Con. Dave, you were at that show. I had to miss that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Dave was there. Dave was there. We had a chat at the end of the day.
Maybe that's
right.
how. So I met you first at Heritage Con, but David met you earlier. Gosh, Dave beat me again.
See, well, you miss shows. You miss shows. You miss out. I was there.
That's true. I'm curious what you think of that show, because I would consider that to be kind of a north of average IPMS invitational, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. The competition standard was really high. The traders were really good. I got to meet a couple of people that I'd met at the Nats the previous year that I caught up with again. So I would say that it's on par with the big state-based shows such as QMHE and Scale ACT that they have in Australia. It's very, very similar to that, Mike.
Okay, so we've covered SMC, Telford, the Melbourne show. Now, the two that we've been with you at, Heritage Con and then the U.S. Nationals, either Omaha or San Marcos. Give us your one impression takeaway from each of those shows.
Heritage Con, I mean, the fact that you're in a hangar with a Lancaster and, that's the thing. You just kind of can't keep pinching yourself. It's a great contest, friendly, great. I got to meet so many people. I'd actually organised to meet Barry Numerick and Rob Willis when I was up there, so I caught up with them and the rest of the Pennsylvania crew. Jim and Bill were there, but I also got to meet Harvey Lowe and I got to meet John Wong. So I bought a 109 and I bought a Spitfire, and I'd put my Spitfire into the contest. And this little Heller Block 152 was there, and I thought, that's a nice model. I wonder who made
nice
that.
model that was made molded back in the 1970s or 80s.
That's right. And I found out that it was John Wong, and I'd heard his name as I'd had heard Harvey's name before as well. And we went out to dinner that night, and just the welcome that I had from them and the inclusion and everything, that was probably the thing that really stood out there. I went to that contest, that show, expecting just to see Barry and Rob, and I ended up meeting a whole lot of extra people. I got to talk to both of you, and when we were talking, we weren't even talking models. We were talking beer and spirits and distilling. We were talking something completely different. So that was great about that.
Let me echo that. The Canadians, they have a reputation for being very, very friendly folks, and that reputation is well deserved. I will say, when we were at Heritage Con, we went out to dinner a couple of times with different groups, and you could not find a more welcoming group of modelers who were
That's for sure.
were going out of their way to include their out-of-town guests in the social activities that surrounded the show.
Yeah, I agree. That was the thing that really stood out to me as I walked away from that show going, wow, there's such a good community out here. It's probably the first time that I went, we're all the same. We're all sitting here talking about, I was talking to John about how he made this absolute masterpiece of this Heller, 72nd scale Heller block. and just... It was amazing, just being able to talk to somebody and hear the way that he approached things, and that was a really good discussion that I had. And it was probably that competition that event being the first one that I went to that I thought, I've got to make a bit more of an effort and actually try to get to some of these shows while I'm here.
Well, finally, let's talk about a U.S. Nationals. You've been to both Omaha and San Marcos. What stands out, other than their sheer size, what stands out about a U.S. National?
I think it's hard to toss up between the Nats and Telford, but one of them or both of them, I think, are like the Olympics of modelling. One might be the Winter Olympics, one might be the Summer Olympics, but they're both the kind of Olympics of modelling. And I've thought about it a bit, and you can go to the Olympics and you can compete. You can go to the Olympics and you can watch, or you can go to the Olympics and kind of make the games happen. And the first time I went there just for the contest. And then I think the second time I went, I was there for watching and socializing more than anything else.
Well, you did a good job at that.
We did spend some quality time in the dojo. Once again, not talking all that much about modeling, more about Sidewater and ELO and Taylor Swift and other things. But that was a fantastic aspect of it.
It was utterly unexpected to be sitting in the dojo with a bunch of modelers at the biggest model contest in the United States. And we're all sitting there talking about the first concert we went to see, the band that we've seen the most, the best experience, the worst. It was just, again, we all have modeling in common, but that was just the springboard for everything else. And that's one of my favorite conversations ever at a national, sitting in our hotel room talking about that with 15 other people.
That's right. And ample model fluing aiding the conversation as well. Yes. Modeling fluid. Yeah.
It helps.
Yeah, it helps. Well, that's interesting because we did, considering David met you at Roscoe Turner. I met you at Heritage Con. But you've talked a couple of times. You've mentioned in this conversation so far about the how much the community has in common, and I just think that's such an important point. I think that goes beyond modeling. I think in other aspects of society, if people would realize commonality is probably more key than differences, we get a lot further in a lot of things. But to keep it conversation to scale modeling and shows and things along that theme, we just met you February and March of 2023 of this year, and then fast forward to July, and it's like we're best friends, man. And I guess we are. I mean, that gap closes so fast when people are of a like mind on some common interest. And it was just a lot of fun. We did spend a lot of time together in San Marcos and enjoyed every second of it.
I want to mention something. We're kind of hiding a light under a bushel because we're talking about Paul and going to all of these shows as if that's Paul's gift, is the traveling to all these shows. But somehow he manages, in addition to traveling to all these shows across 3 continents and 18 time zones or whatever it is, to produce some of the best darn models it's ever been my pleasure to see. Where do you find time to model in between your jet set life of doing international hitman work or whatever it is that you really do?
Oh, thank you. That's very high praise. I appreciate the comments. I've never stopped modeling. I've modeled nonstop since I was 7 years of age. So it's my wind down. It's my relaxation when I'm not modeling doing, I'm modeling thinking, outside of work. So I find some time to do it. And even if I go out and just sit at the desk and stare at a piece of plastic for half an hour thinking about it, it's still in my mind keeping myself connected with the hobby. And it was going to probably be the hardest thing about moving to another country. And that was, well, what am I going to do with my modeling? And I took a really kind of rudimentary set of equipment over. I didn't come back with a rudimentary set of equipment. I bought the whole. I was trying to work out all the stuff that I had doubles of when I got back. I've left some stuff over there, but I built up a little bit of a workbench, and I kept modeling, the whole way I was there. So I try to find some time to do it, and I just, like I said, if I've got a subject that I'm really interested in, I somehow I just gravitate towards trying to finish it and get it done. So I built 2 whole models when I was in the US that were started and finished in the US. And the Spitfire I started in San Diego, I painted it in Australia, and then I finished it back in the US. So it's done about 60,000 miles, that little Spitfire. So it's travelled around the world quite a bit with me. But yeah, I guess, Dave, to answer your question, I think it's just finding some time to do it, and just almost making some time to do it as well, even if it's just a short bit of time through the day.
Have you had much problem? Obviously, going back and forth here and there, etc., and taking your in-progress models with you. Have you had any difficulty in transporting them and building them here, painting them there, coming back and decaling them over here? Has that been any sort of additional challenge as opposed to if it had been all at your house, at your bench from beginning to end?
Yeah, a little bit. I went over I had an Office Depot just across from me, and I went over and bought some of those lock boxes, those plastic tubs, and I had some foam. So I just cut the shape of the model out, put them in the foam, and then support them from all 3 axes. So from forward and backwards movement, from lateral movement, and then vertical movement. Put the lid back on it, like a little lunchbox almost.
Yeah.
And I just take them with me on my carry-on. I did have one model that I threw in my luggage just in one of those boxes just to see how it went. That was a Hellcat that I had built, and the prop broke off. But otherwise, not a single thing has broken off any of the models that I've taken around the world. And I bought a 72nd scale DH9, so a twin bay World War I biplane back to the Nats, and then across to the UK, and it went around Europe with me for 4 weeks, and nothing broke. So I've got fingers crossed and touch wood, a reasonably good system that's worked so far. But I'm hoping it doesn't fail spectacularly at some point when I don't want it to fail. But we'll see how we go. It's worked so far.
Okay, I have to ask.
Mm-hmm.
What in the Lord's name possessed you to take on a High Plains Windshield? And I mean, literally, you would have been better off starting with a solid block of styrene that you then carved to shape. What?
I get it.
What the heck were you doing?
Dave and I are different here. So
Yes.
I get it.
Mike and I are completely different. He would
go
look
ahead,
at that.
Paul. Tell Dave, because I know what you're going to say.
Actually probably it's not such a bad kit once you clean it up. It's actually pretty accurate, and it goes together reasonably well. But the thing that I've always done, probably since I was a teenager, is I've always built Australian Air Force aircraft. My ultimate aim is to have all of the Australian aircraft. They have A numbers. There's 3 different series of A numbers. So like a Spitfire, all the Spitfires had A58. All the Gloster Meteors were A77. A Mirage is A3. So I would like ultimately to have one of every at least one of every type. And I've got pretty much all of them in the stash. There's a few that are missing, and I've built about 30 of them so far. But the Windshield was the first aircraft. My father joined the Air Force, and he learned to fly on the Windshield. And I've built one already, which I did in the markings of the aircraft that he did his first solo on. And I got some really good photos of these FAC windshields, which were camouflaged and had smoke canisters underneath them and so forth. And I really like the topic. And I also really like, as bizarrely as it sounds, those little 72nd scale engines that have 99 pieces. They're actually quite rewarding to work on. So I wanted to showcase that again.
And you didn't just build the kit, okay? It would be one thing if you had just built the kit, but you blew this thing up. I mean, you opened up every bit of it. And what percentage of the kit is in there, and what percentage of that is you and a heck of a lot of sheet styrene and plastistruct and all that sort of stuff?
Well, before he gets going on that, let me back up to what me saying I knew what he's going to say, and I will paraphrase that. You had a vested interest in this subject, and it didn't matter how bad the kit was.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
See, there you go, Dave.
And Mike, to that point, I'm currently working on some Airfix Avro 504s, which is kind of the same.
Yeah. Oh God.
No, it probably links really well to that question that you asked before, and that is, how do you find time to do it? And I think that when I find something that I really want to build, I'm keen to kind of build it and keen to get to the finished result. And like I said, I've seen a couple of, it's a little bit like your float plane. You love the subject, you want to get to the end of it. It's like Ploesti Raiders for you, I imagine, Dave. You love the subject, you just want to kind of, do the research and get the work done on it. But I really like this scheme. I really like this little camouflage scheme, and I really like opening the engines and doing the cockpit. So I think most of it's kit. The cockpit I did. You can't get an Edward Profi Pack windshield, and you can't get you can't get an engine detail set. So it's kind of like, well, if you want it, you got to do it. A little bit like the 504s that I'm working on at the moment. But I think it's that combination of desire to build it. I'm going to have to build it anyway at some point, because I have to tick off A85, because that's the windshield number. I have to tick that off in the collection. So I may as well just build it. The 504s, I know that, I probably want to do a few of them. So it's a little bit of a time-saving effort by doing, I think I'm up to 4 I've got at the moment. I've done 4 fuselages. But what I'll do is I'll probably take them to the point where I've done the fuselage, I've done the wings, and I'll just leave them for a while. I'll finish one, then I might finish another. But I know that once they're done, they'll all be the same. They'll all have the same fuselage. They'll all have the same parts. So that's important for me as well.
Okay, 2 questions. One, the windshield beginning to end, how long did that take you?
That was 5.5, 6 weeks, I think I took to do that. Yeah.
God.
The first one I did for one of Roy Sutherland's lockdown 3-week challenge builds, and I did that in 3 weeks. So that was never again. So I took it a bit I took it a bit leisurely this time. I gave myself an extra 3 weeks.
And number 2, let's talk about the Avro 504s, which I assume the Australians used at some point. There's an A number, and so you have to have it in the collection.
Yes, and they flew in the Australian Flying Corps training in World War I in the UK as well.
So that kit is from what, the 1970s?
1967.
19.
It's older than me by a year.
Yeah. There you go.
Me by a while.
and out of you're not just taking the kit and building it out of the box and putting it together, because that kit has certain issues in relation to what it really should look like. So you're taking 4 of these things, and you're not just cleaning them up and building them, but you're sectioning the fuselage. And what all have you had to do so far to that kit?
I had to work out what I needed to do for starters, because I'd heard that it wasn't right, but I didn't know exactly how. So I went back. I think the earliest article was one by Ray Rimmel in the 70s in
Oh,
Scale
wow.
Modeler or something, and he actually articulates really well what's wrong with it and what you've got to change. And that is, it's short by about 3 millimeters and it's shallow by about 2 millimeters. So yeah, it's a cut just behind the rear cockpit. Extend that out, and then a slice through the center of the forward fuselage with a little bit of plastic card to put in there. But when you do all of that, you throw the wings out because the struts are not the right length and so forth. So there's a bit more thinking that I need to do to bring it to kind of completion. But the fuselage is done. The fuselage is done. And then the wings are pretty awful. They look like they're a sail, really.
I was going to ask you about those wings.
Yeah. So I've got a fantastic book, which is also goes back to the day. It's a book called Scale Model Aircraft in Plastic Card by Harry Woodman. And he has a really interesting technique in there where what he does is he takes 5 thou plastic and then with a ballpoint pen embosses the
ribs.
5 thou. That's it, Dave. And then you flip it over and you've got the debossed ribs. Yep. So I've been experimenting. I've got a silhouette printer, cutter printer, and there's an embossing tool on that. So I've done a set of wings already that I'm now just working out how I'm going to attach the 5 thou to the original Airfix wings to make it look just a little bit more representative as such. So
you actually use the cutter? You use the embossing tool on the cutter to do the wings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so...
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, draw it up in the silhouette as though it was like, I know that you're working on your landcraft at the moment. So, draw it up in the program as though you wanted it to cut. So draw the wing, draw the ribs, and then just use the embossing tool, emboss it, and then pull it off, flip it over, and you've got the nice rib pattern there. So in theory, it's working.
And there's no problem feeding the 5 thou plastic through the silhouette?
No, it just sticks onto the feed tray as the same way
like you would with any material.
Yeah, that's right, Dave.
The masking vinyl is probably thicker than 5,000s.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
No, it probably is.
So in theory, it's working. He's got an old school technique, it's kind of like the 1970s. So it's like next step is pull out a candle and wave it across. So I don't think I'll be doing that. But I'll be, and he attaches it to he uses a balsa core wing.
Right.
I'll be using the plastic, and he uses double-sided tape. So I'm just not too sure about how long that's going to last. So the thing that I'm mulling over at the moment is how I'll bend it and how I'll affix it. But that's a problem for 2024.
Yeah, that's a 2024 problem.
Yeah,
and all these fine scale techniques that you're talking about, you've just invited yourself back for another appearance on Plastic Model Mojo.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Let me finish it and get it done, and then we'll be able to talk.
I think bonding plastic to plastic is going to be way easier than double-siding tape styrene to a would core.
Yeah, but gluing 5 thou plastic without
wrecking it. Oh yeah,
without wrecking it, going to be a challenge.
Oh yeah.
Of course, the nice thing though is if you're doing it in the silhouette cutter, you can cut as many of once you've got it down once. You can cut as many of them as you want.
That's it. And this is what I was thinking. If I do, also the beauty of doing 4 is it might end up being a little bit of a Hunger Games at the end where it's survival of the fittest. So it might take 4. It might take 4 to get one. That's it. But I'll be able to make a few mistakes, and if I have to scrap one or two, well, then be the breaks.
So let's back up just a little bit. We've talked about a few of these subjects and how you get into them, which I can really relate to. But we've not talked at a high level. You're a 72nd scale modeler.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your scale selection and preference, and how you got to there, because that's Dave's jam for sure. And
God's one true scale.
and he's gotten me infected as well.
It's easy. It's easy.
How could you fail to come to God's one true scale, right?
Yeah. I growing up, I built everything 32nd, 48th, the monogram kits we had here. In Australia, we had all the early Tamiya models here, Matchbox, all of those. So I kind of just built whatever. The turning point for me came, as I said, when I was about 16 or so, and I thought, I really want to just build all of the Australian aircraft. And there was absolutely no way I could have ever even imagined that you could have done that in 48 scale. So I thought there's more aircraft available in 72nd for the Australian Air Force than what, there are in any other scale. So I'll start building 72nd. And then it just became I'll just build 72nd. I'll just keep building 72nd. And it's become not hard and fast. I've got a couple of 43rd scale racing cars that I like to build, but pretty much everything else is 72nd. So I've got some of those Bandai Star Wars kits. I've only bought the 72nd scale ones. I picked up a 72nd scale Thunderbird one, which I'll build at some point. I've got some of those Vespered tanks, the Panther and the Tiger. So I like, Mike, probably being able to compare and contrast so that when I look in the cabinet, I can go, look how much bigger that is compared with that. So with the Australian Air Force, you go all the way from a KC-30, which is an A330 airliner, all the way down to a Link trainer. So you can see basically an aircraft that is, almost 3 foot in wingspan, all the way down to something that's not even an inch. And I really like that aspect of being able to compare and contrast and see how big things are. I've got a 72nd scale 747, which is going to be done as the one that my father, my dad, the last flight that he did was a 747-400. So I'll paint that up. So I think that'll be really nice to be able to have all of aviation, all of my subjects, and being able to look at them and go, wow, look how small that is and look how big that is once they're all completed.
Well, to build on that a little bit, a modeler of any skill could build 72nd scale for the reasons you're saying. And I'm not trying to invalidate them at all. But that said, a regular on our show is Steve Hustad, 72nd scale, top to bottom, and doing the fine scale stuff like you are. Absolutely. And then on the armor side, I don't know if you're familiar with Alex Clark, 72nd scale armor, a maestro, just incredible, amazing, incredible things. And Paul, I'm going to lump you right in there with those guys because I've seen your work. I've seen it in progress, in process. I've seen the finished stuff. So your reason for being there, for being in that lane, is the continuity of scale across a wide size of subjects. Let's say it that way. But the challenge of fidelity of scale and detailing in 72nd scale. What about that? What pushes you there, and what makes you go the extra mile on all these things? Because you do a lot of amazing work.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that's very kind. I know Steve very, very well. Talk to him very frequently, and he still does things that just completely blow me away. His Betty is just like, I've just saved that to a folder and just keep looking through his photos. And I was talking to him the other day, just telling him how beautiful it was. I don't know Alex. I've seen his work, but I'd love to have a conversation with him one day. But the Mike, it's hard to say. There's also that point that you reach where you become comfortable a little bit with the scale as well. You kind of know what's scale and what's not scale. And then things like accessories, like I've got like some of the Archer, and I've got some of the new Edward rivets, the decal rivets. And I've got a lot of N gauge and HO gauge. I haven't got anything else because I don't need anything else. So if I was to change scales, I'd be looking for things that I've probably already got things that are adequate for the job. So there might just be a little bit of it's a good word that you used before. I've found my lane and I'm comfortable there, but I'm also trying to push and do as much as what I can to get better within that sphere of 72nd. And, I've never really built a lot of armor. I've built a couple of, little airfield trucks and Jeeps and things like that. But they've always been part of, a diorama or some kind of, something sitting on a base. So the tank will, when I do the Tiger, I think that'll challenge me quite a lot. I've got a little Fine Molds X-Wing out there that I think will challenge me as well.
That's a great kit.
Yeah. So and because I've built a lot of RAAF subjects and things with roundels on them, I built my first BF 109 in about 20 years. This year I built it. So I've got a couple of Luftwaffe subjects that I've never really gotten into, and I've got the Tamiya Zero that you talk so much about, Dave. It's such a great kit.
Yep.
So I think that within the one scale, there's still room to grow, room to improve, room to push, room to continually improve. Some of the stuff that Edouard are doing, holy, the 3D printing that they're coming out with at the moment, there's still so much upside there, I think,
Yes.
Mike, is probably why I think there's no reason. I have got a Hasegawa, a Tamiya 32nd scale Spitfire that I will build one day, but only because I just love the subject, and it'll be an RAAF one. So I will do things outside it, but I've only got so much time, so I try to achieve my goal of ticking off more A numbers off my list, and building things that are pushing me as a modeler as well.
Speaking of that X-Wing, and speaking of shows that you have yet to attend, but should attend, Wonderfest here in Louisville. If you can possibly arrange to come to Wonderfest, it's an amazing show with some real cutting edge modeling, particularly in the sci-fi realm and in the realm of lighting models and using other techniques to bring the models even more alive. You got to find a way to show up in Wonderfest one year.
Yeah, I would love to. It's one that I missed. I missed a few that I either couldn't get to or the timing wasn't right or so forth. I got to go to Louisville twice for work and spent quite a bit of time in Merle's Whiskey House down there. So it's a great city. I really like Louisville quite a lot.
Well, too bad that was before you knew us.
Yeah, really.
It was,
okay.
Yeah.
So next time you arrange a trip into Louisville, you let me know. We'll do it upright.
I'll be there.
Well, Dave, about 4 questions ago, I interrupted you to get my.
And now I forget where I was. The Avro 504s. Why did you start building 4 of them?
Like I said, Dave, I think it's just going to end up being Hunger Games at the end.
But I mean, did you have 4 completions in mind, or is there only 1 or 2 completions that you have to have?
I've got 4 subjects in mind.
Okay.
2 504Ks, a 504J, which has got a slightly different front end around the cowling, and a 504L, which is a 504K on floats, just basically. So I don't, maybe I'm just a little bit kind of fastidious, but all my Spitfires have exactly the same wheels. So I like to have things the same. So if I'm going to build a subject, I'll try to just only build the one kit. I've got an Armour Hurricane and an Airfix Hurricane in the cabinet, and it kind of does my head in a little bit. I'm kind of like, oh, they're different. They're just a little bit too different. So I like to say, if I'm going to build a subject, I'll just pick one kit and stick to it, rather than having different versions of it. So not building any P51Ds until this new kit comes out next year. Then I'll just build all of those.
Right. Now, did you look on, speaking of the Avro 504s, did you give any consideration at all? Because there are a couple of other kits. I think A model is the one that pops to mind. Did you give any consideration to anything other than the old 19 67 Airfix kits?
The work that I did having a look at the A model one was all the reviews said that it was very similar, if not exactly the same as the Airfix one. That they hadn't changed the fuselage. Now that might be wrong, but I couldn't even find an A model kit. Not on secondhand markets or anything like that, or any at the swap and sells. Whereas there's plenty of those Airfix 504s around.
Yeah.
So, I also thought, well, if I cut it up and it doesn't work, then it's a Series 1 1967 Airfix kit. I can probably get another one.
Yeah.
Probably get another one.
Yeah, you get another one cheap.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
it. It might be a bit moldy and water stained and probably purchased in 1968, but I'll be able to get another one.
2023 is coming to a close. You've been to all these shows. You've finished all these builds, and you got all these builds in progress. What's going to be going on with Paul Gloster for 2024 as far as builds, as far as world travel? What's it looking like? Are we going to see you again?
You will. It's certainly going to be not as intense. I think, first of all, the first thing was that I was living in the US this time last year, so that enabled so much more of it. Living in Australia,
I'm sure it did. Yeah,
it's a little bit further away, but I'm booked in for Madison at the moment with Mr. Husted and Mr. Copeland, who have been talking about a little road trip prior to that. So definitely will be at Madison, and then if I could get to SMC and Telford again, I'd definitely try to get to those. But we'll just have to see how things go. And then just on the modelling, try to get these 504s done. I've got a couple of other subjects that I'm looking at doing as well. But I'm kind of got a pretty clear bench other than those at the moment.
One question in regard to all of the Australian aircraft. Is there any big hole? Is there any aircraft that Australia used that just there's either no kit of it, no good kit of it? What's the biggest glaring hole in the Australia collection?
That's a really good question. The locally produced, there's two locally produced aircraft, the CA-15, which was a single-engined fighter with a big Griffin at the front of it. No one has done a really good version. That was probably my holy grail kit. And there was another one called a Woomera, which was a twin-engined light torpedo bomber that they made two prototypes of. There's no good kits of either of those, but we talk about, the golden age and the renaissance of modelling. There's been so many holes filled over the last couple of years. Things like Vickers Vikings have been made, and a whole lot of other subjects that have filled in. I've got an Avro cadet that's come through. A CT4 has just been released by Red Roo Models. So there's so many gaps being filled at the moment through either new producers or 3D printed kits, or just new companies on the scene, or even old companies putting out new models. The P43 was one that Dora Wings have just done. That was always a bit of a hole that hadn't been filled. So most of the big ones are done. I got myself a KC-30, which is, I mentioned before, that A330 tanker. I guess probably in 72nd, and this applies to both the US Air Force and the Royal Air Force and many of the other air forces, there's no good C-17 in 72nd scale.
We talked to Kinetic at the Nationals at San Marcos, and they announced one a number of years ago in 72nd scale. And that project is on hold for them because, frankly, they're having a tough time figuring out how to do it where it's at a price point that makes sense. So I'm hopeful they'll get back on it.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I have a friend here who's built the resin version of it, and he needs a pickup to move it around. Basically, it weighs so much and is in a giant box. I think if you dropped it, it would leave a depression in the floor. It weighs a ton. It's done a beautiful job, but it weighs a ton.
Oh yeah.
Be nice to see things like a a really good Catalina. I know, Dave, you talk about the privateer. I think things like a PBY, a really nice PBY would be good.
Yeah.
Same thing, so many different operators used it, so many great schemes that you could do. So there's certainly room for new improved versions of things in there. But yeah, I've got pretty much most of them. I think I'm missing about 15 in total.
You've got plenty of time, and by the time you build those, then somebody's going to fill those holes that are still out there.
That's true. I'm sure that the Avro 504 Edward Profi pack will be out.
There you go. As soon as you complete your current project, then Edward will announce the 504 Profi pack.
I guarantee it. Straight after the Windjill.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, you mean you didn't hear about the Tamiya Windjill?
Don't. You'll put me on the floor in the fetal position, rocking very shortly.
I really get the devotion to a subject, and no holds barred, no obstacle too large to try to get that one in the collection.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, thanks, Mike. Thank you. It's like I said earlier, 2023 for me was beyond anything what I thought, in terms of the people that I got to meet, the events that I got to attend, even my own modeling, was not planned, very fortuitous. If somebody said, hey, how do we have a year like you had? Well, the first step is go and live in America, get a green card and work in America. So there's your first big barrier. That's just not possible or practical for everybody to do. So I think the stars aligned. And then when the opportunity came up, I thought, you know what, it's kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. So do it. But I would say to anybody out there thinking about it, so much of the modeling world has come to us over the last couple of years, and it's awesome. I love having conversations with all of the people that I've met, at all of the model shows. I met one of my modeling heroes, Alex Bignay from Tahiti at Telford, and at the Nats, he's always there, and you always hear, gold Alex Bignay from Tahiti. Yeah, and I finally got to meet him at Telford and stay in touch with him, and that's what's great about it. But it's so much better when you get out and meet these people and have a connection with them, and like the both of you, just being able to sit down. And I love that night, the last night of the Nats, when the contest was, the announcement was about to be made, and it had started, and we were all off having Mexican and drinking beer. And we got back, it was just like, oh yeah, that started. And we were just so busy.
Yeah, let's live stream it in the hotel room. Yeah.
Yeah, we were just so busy catching up and having our kind of last night at the Nats together that, it became about us catching up and being modeling brethren rather than, anything else. It kind of surpassed it all, and that's where it elevated to another level. So that was great. And I definitely encourage anyone to go out there and connect with the people that you've met online, and connect with these shows, and touch base with the people. You'll find there's a whole lot of people just like you out there.
Well, I think it's a little bit amazing that an Aussie modeler met his Tahiti modeler idol at a show in the United Kingdom.
Yeah,
that's a little bit crazy, right?
Yeah, it's shrinking. The world is being shrunk down an amazing amount.
It is. I just, being able to talk to him and tell him, how much I'd admired some of his little Cessna 310, I think it was, that he'd done.
Oh God, yes.
Just amazing. Just being able to talk to him and talking to him about the challenges of getting Mr. Color leveling thinner in Tahiti. Because talking to him about those challenges, it's we've got a lot in common, all of us.
Well, I am thrilled to hear that we're going to get to see you again in 2024.
Yeah,
we will have to be hanging out and spending more quality social time.
Well, I'll have to find another quality bottle of Australian Spirit to bring over for you. So I'll get on the hunt.
The first one was fine. It was a little small.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I'll find the upscale version.
Well, we'll have another Aussie in tow.
Yes, that's right.
At Nats, but
that's right.
I'm sure you'll get along fine.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you'll need to send me any care and feeding tips of Australians, because we're going to have the Podfather with us, and I need to make sure that I can properly care and feed an Australian, because it would be bad if I didn't get him to the Nats alive.
Yeah, we're pretty simple to keep going. We're very maintenance free.
Well, I've got Vegemite, and I've got a recipe for Anzac biscuits. So, hopefully I'll be able to keep him going.
Yeah, you'll keep him fueled and ready to go. Maybe the occasional beer as well.
Oh no, Australians don't drink beer. What are you talking about?
I do have my modelling fluid here, actually. I'm very lucky they've got a brewery just around the corner from me. So,
what is your modelling fluid?
Well, I've got a can of Black Hops Hornet IPA. Having worked in brewing for 20 years, the big guys, they're doing fine. They don't need, they're doing okay. So I've got a little brewery that's opened up within walking distance from my home. So I'm supporting my local brewery, and we go around there every Friday night and have a beer just to make sure that we're doing the right thing by them. So I've got a can of their IPA.
Very respectable. The big guys don't need you to buy their crap anymore.
That's right.
They're doing okay.
Repeat for me one more time. Black
Hops. Mm-hmm. And it's Hornet
IPA.
Yeah, so it's it's an IPA style, but they use like modern hops. That's got like Cascade and Citra in it. 6% ABV. They also do one, a Super Hornet, which is like a double IPA, which is very good.
Please tell me it has an F18 on the label.
Oh, it doesn't. But it's very much what it's inspired by, the Hornet and the Super Hornet. So
there you go.
To drop a hint, coming to a check bag near you.
That's right.
Oh yes. Okay. All right. No problem. I can do that.
Well, Paul, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure enjoying 2023 with you on a couple of occasions, especially in San Marcos. We had a really good time.
We did.
It was great.
And look forward to Madison, Wisconsin.
Very much so. Yeah. Look, and thanks to the both of you. I mean, Dave, you often talk about joining your local IPMS club, and it was the first thing that I did when I got to San Diego, and I met such a great bunch of people there.
They are a great group of guys.
Yeah, like Ethan, who's on the dojo, and Gary Baker, and I get to meet Mark Schachter, who's up in Seattle now, and Manny and Jerry Jackson, all of those guys. They're fantastic guys, but they welcomed me, and and you guys did exactly the same thing when we caught up at Heritage Con, and then Roscoe, and then the Nats. So thanks again, and I appreciate all the great work that you're both doing.
Well, I can assure you that in Madison there will be plenty of hospitality available.
That sounds good. We'll keep the dojo kicking over.
That's right.
Well, thank you, Paul, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to the both of you as well. And thanks again for everything that you've done in 2023.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Paul's super. He's got some great models out there, and he's not afraid to work on the old dogs either.
No. And hey, listen, the logistics of arranging an interview where we're talking at 9:00 at night our time, and it's 12 noon the next day where he is, that was fun.
I wish he hadn't shown up with his camera on first, looking out his kitchen window or whatever it was.
He was rubbing salt in the wound there, man.
Yeah, he might have an American family show up on his doorstep next winter here. Well, Paul, again, is a terrific modeler, and if you'd like to check out some of his work, you can do so on Facebook at Glossy Models.
Yeah, you can follow the Avro 504 group build that he's doing that we talked about in the interview. It's pretty freaking amazing.
Can't wait to see those four done.
Yeah, neither can I. Mike, I know that you've been a very good boy this year, so I'm sure that Santa has rewarded you with gift cards and Christmas money that is definitely earmarked for the hobby. So what's burning a hole in your pocket?
I did get some gift cards and some money and stuff, Visas and eBays and all that great stuff. People listen when I tell them what I might want for Christmas. Imagine that.
Yeah, that's great.
Glad it worked out. There's not a whole lot on the kit front I need, but I'm going to use this minor windfall to amp up some of my tools here at the my Mojo dojo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a collet chuck and a set of metric collets for my lathe, because the 3-jaw chuck that it comes with is not very versatile for small stock, and it tends to damage things you put in them if they're soft. So this will fix that, and I hope I'm like to call me a neophyte machinist that'd be a stretch. I don't even think I'm that. So hopefully I'll get that stuff ordered this week, and it's not too expensive, but it's not too cheap either. I'll probably pretty much burn all my Christmas windfall, but I look forward to getting that stuff in, and I think it'll probably get used pretty quick. It's something I need to make for my Musaru Cup project to help finish that build. So
I won't delve into too much detail because we want to keep the Musaru mystery going. But that was my question. Did you have some near immediate use in mind for the lathe and for the collets you'd be purchasing?
I was thinking, this would be a nice. I was trying to think about how to hold the parts I needed to use. The parts I have in mind in the 3-jaw I already had. I'm like, this is just not going to work. It's going to crush stuff, or I'm going to have to make a mandrel to hold them. And too much work. It's too much work. Didn't want to do it. And I thought, this is a pretty good upgrade. It'll actually give me a little more room inside the headstock and tailstock of the lathe with this collet chuck. So actually it'll increase the working length, so I could turn longer things if I wanted to. But yeah, the Musaru is the first thing that's going to get some attention with this stuff. Once I get it in, we'll just go from there. I do have a cart in eBay that's got a few things in it that are some accessories, some aftermarket stuff. I've got a bunch of stuff earmarked for, I want to do a little Polycarpov I-16.
Great choice.
In 72nd scale, and a later choice. Mark, a 24.
Yeah.
So I guess as soon as I crack the plastic on the ICM kit I've got, Clear Prop will start marching through the later marks. Or maybe I should learn the difference, and maybe I could update the
Clear Prop. I think they did a 16. Yeah.
I don't know. It's an early one.
Oh yeah. In any event, yeah, they are going to march through all of the different versions, I think.
I think that's it. Yeah. What about you?
Well, I was a good boy, and Santa listened, and so I got money and gift cards that I've already started spending. I ran up to the local hobby shop for the post-Christmas sale, and Brian had the Sword RF8, the reconnaissance versions of the F8, both the early RF8A that was used in Cuba and the RF8G that was used in Vietnam. He had them both. I won them both, but I'm trying to limit myself. I'm trying to realizing how many kits I have and my lack of completion. I'm trying to be a good boy, so I only bought one. I bought the RF8A to do for the Cuban Missile Crisis. Eventually want to do several things related to that.
Well, how is it?
Oh, it's beautiful. Very, really? Very nice. Now, Sword is...
That's why I'm asking.
Okay. Sword has improved greatly. Okay. When Sword first started, Sword was very limited run. I mean, very limited run. The stuff now, it's not Arma. It's not Tamiya. It's not at that level. But it is every bit as good as a early 2000s Hasegawa kit, or in fact, probably even a little bit better than that. So it looks, I don't want to give people in-box reviews, but obviously opened it up and fondled it, and it looks awfully nice. If it goes together as well as it looks in the box, it's going to make a nice model.
I asked because I've got it's a double boxing. It's an Arado AR-196 float plane and a Gloster Gladiator, I think.
Yep.
I guess it's for Battle of Norway.
Yep.
And it's kind of it's a little better than most limited run, but it's not. It's kind of probably midlife for sword.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they probably it's probably better than their initial offerings, but not quite what you got. Well,
Yeah.
for the unread, what is the major difference that makes an entire kit necessary for a reconnaissance version of the Crusader?
What they did with the Crusader was there is a fuselage section behind the cockpit and ahead of the leading edge of the wing, where they completely changed the shape of the fuselage to put in a whole bunch of camera ports. And so doing a conversion, you'd have to do pretty much the whole fuselage to do a conversion to an RF, a reconnaissance F8. So a whole new kit once you've got the fuselage and the related changes. It's such a big change that just doing some sort of conversion kit for it wouldn't really be practical. It could be done. The reconnaissance F8s are a big hole in 72nd scale. There was a vac form conversion for it. There was a planned resin conversion by Fisher before they got caught in the California wildfires a couple of years ago. So this one's kind of been on the list for a lot of people, and I was really happy to see it. Even more happy to see it once I opened it up and saw how nice it was.
Well, I assume this is the decal sheets are probably for all those mid 60s high vis.
Yeah, they are. This is the one I got is F8s that were RF8s that were used in reconnaissance over Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Everybody thinks of the U-2s taking the pictures of the Soviet ballistic missiles in Cuba, but a lot of that reconnaissance was done by RF8s. And so the boxing is specifically tailored toward the early RF8s, the RF8As that were used over Cuba. And
now, were those flying out of land bases?
Most of those, I believe, were flying out of land bases out of Key West or someplace in Florida. There's a great book on it called Blue Moon over Cuba, because they were called Blue Moon flights. And there's an entire book, and I read that book a couple of years ago, and that got my juices flowing for wanting to do an RF8. But of course, there wasn't a good kit of it, and so now this fills that hole.
That's a Blue Moon of Kentucky, too.
Yeah, that's right. And then I also used a gift card I got, an Amazon gift card, to get Dana Bell's latest book on 1930s cruisers and battleship float planes.
Ooh, I'm going to have to get that one.
Oh, it is great. Yellow wings, the division markings with all the different colors, the blues, the greens, the reds, the yellows. It arrived today. I've already been through it, perused it. It's a really, really nice book and very inspirational. So I've already begun spending my hobby money. I still have some left that may go toward a VMS order. You and I need to talk. There are a couple other things that I've got in mind. I've got Christmas money and Christmas gift cards, and they're already being deployed in service of the hobby.
It's almost like going to a model show.
It is.
Well, I'm going to have to check into that book.
If you show up in Louisville, I'll be happy to let you look through it.
Now it's just the smaller vessels. It's not got the battleship planes.
It's the battleship and cruisers.
Oh, okay, so no, the bigger boats.
Yep. It's the aircraft used on all of. I think it's limited to the Pacific battleship divisions, which is 4, 5, and 6, or 3, 4. I have to go back and look. Basically all the battleships at Pearl Harbor. And then all of the cruisers, the Portland, the Louisville, the Pensacola, and I got to tell you, a USS Louisville float plane.
I was about to say, I think I know where this is going.
Yeah.
What kit you got to build?
The Hasegawa SOC-1 Seagull.
Oh, okay. I've got one of those.
Yes. Yeah. And I've got not only do I have that kit, I've got the Starfighter upgrade for it.
Yep. Well, they make a resin cockpit and a set of photo etched flat wire rigging for it.
Exactly.
So there you go.
Yep.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah, I know how you know.
Anything else? I don't think I'm trying to think what else I've got earmarked. I tell you, there is a kit. I'm might pull the trigger on that the non-interior version of that mini art, that first D5T ARM T34 kit they came out with. I might get that.
The one I'm still looking at is I am looking at one of the Vespid kits. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a T34 or if it's going to be a Tiger or Panther, but after seeing so many nice buildups of these 72nd scale armor kits, I'm feeling like I'm going to need to dabble in that area.
Well, folks, it sounds like we're going to have a lot of what broke your wallet segments coming up in the future.
That's right. We're here toward the end of the episode. This slightly truncated version for the last episode for the year of 2023. Assuming that you're enjoying your modeling fluid.
Oh, of course. I mean, we talked about Gumball Head. We have it in the fridge at the dojo at the national convention when we go.
That's right.
It's a good, even-bodied hop. You know, it's a hoppy beer. They call it an American wheat pale ale. It's, most people would say it's an IPA.
Yeah, but it's on the lighter end of an IPA.
It is. And it's just really, really good.
It is.
I like it poured in a glass better than out of a can or a bottle.
See, I'm a bottle man.
But because you just get so much aroma coming off of it. I mean, it's
like
really grapefruity if you do that.
Yep.
Good stuff. Highly recommend it. Gumball Head from Three Floyds from where? Munster,
Indiana.
Indiana.
And Three Floyds has been expanding. It started as a small microbrewery up in Munster near Chicago. And their distribution, I follow their Twitter page, and they're constantly moving into new states. So keep an eye out for, in your local beer, liquor store or grocery store, because they're always expanding. So you may well see Gumball Head available to you. And if it is, it has my highest recommendation for people to try it. It's a really, really drinkable beer.
Well, give us the lowdown on the Sapporo.
Okay, it's good. Like I said, it's mass market. So, heck, I don't know what the ABV is on it. It's, this is not something I would drink all the time, but it is not an objectionable beer. If somebody handed me this to go with my fried rice or my teppanyaki or tempura that I was eating at a Japanese restaurant, I would have no complaints. It's a fine beer. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that you're going to go out of your way to seek. But by the same token, not a beer that you're going to refuse if somebody hands one to you. Mike, we are truly now at the end of the episode. Do you have any shout outs for the last episode of 2023?
I do, and this is going to harken back to episode 105 as well, like the listener mail will get caught up on next time. But Don Gilman down in Texas was the person who was a friend of Chris's and recommended that he thought it'd make a good segment, and he was 100% correct. So, Don, thanks for that. We appreciate it. I think you're also involved with the crowd doing the Winter Blitz show down there in College Station. So,
yeah, I believe he is.
Good luck with that if you are, and I thank you again for putting us in contact with Chris. And that was just really a great episode.
It was indeed.
What about you? You got a shout out?
Yes, I do. This one is a shout out to all of the friends we've made from Australia. You know what? Australians have that reputation of just being great, gregarious guys who never met a person that wasn't a friend. And so far, I got to say, in my interactions with every one of them, that's been absolutely 100% true, be it the Quokka, Paul Gloster, be it the Podfather, Dave Goldfinch, and his crew, his son. You Australians are not bad people. I've got to say, I really enjoy interacting with our Australian modeler friends. So this is a special shout out to our Australian buddies.
Well, it's interesting to elaborate on that a little bit. We got the aggregate email from our host, Buzzsprout.
Yep.
And Melbourne is the single highest listenership of any city in our reach.
that is exactly what reminded me to make this shout out, because they're just really good people. They've never met somebody who wasn't a friend from the moment they meet them. One of my favorite memories of Omaha is going down every morning and having breakfast with the OTB crew. We talked about modeling and talked about the show, but we talked about all sorts of other stuff. And it was such easy conversation because they are so friendly and open, good friends, good allies. I've got nothing but positive things to say about our Australian friends.
All right. Well, we're proud to wrap it up, Dave.
I think we should.
We're running out of year.
Yeah, we are. We better get this sucker in the can and get moving for 2024.
Well, listeners, I hope you had a Merry Christmas, and we want to wish you a Happy New Year, and we're hoping for great things from you all and for you all, and certainly for Plastic Model Mojo.
Amen.
Well, Dave, as they always say,
so many kits.
So little time, my friend, and I look forward to getting back to the bench here this week.
You got it.
Take it easy.
You too.